Sam Brooks wiped the sweat from his forehead and cursed it under his breath. The thermal regulator was stuck again. This was the third time this week he had crawled into the heating ducts to fix the same problem, and he was getting tired of it. He was a mechanic, one of the many humans who worked on Harmony Station. His job was to keep the environmental systems running smoothly. It was not an exciting job. It was not a glamorous job. But it paid well enough, and Sam liked working with his hands. He had been doing this kind of work for 12 years now. Ever since he left Earth looking for something different. Back on Earth, Sam had been nobody special. He grew up in a small town in Ohio. He fixed cars at his uncle's garage. He got married young, got divorced younger, and spent a few years feeling sorry for himself. Then one day he saw an advertisement for workers needed on space stations, and he decided to take a chance. That was 8 years ago. Now he was 34 years old, his brown hair was going gray at the edges, and he spent most of his days crawling through ducts and pipes. It was not the adventure he had dreamed of, but it was honest work. Sam squeezed further into the duct, his flashlight gripped between his teeth. The metal walls pressed against his shoulders. He was not a big man, which was good for this kind of work. Bigger guys could not fit into the tight spaces. He found the thermal regulator and started working on it. His tools clanked against the metal. The sound echoed through the duct system like tiny bells. Then he heard something else. Something that made him stop and listen. It was a soft sound, almost too quiet to hear. A whimpering, like a small animal in pain. Or like a child crying. Sam frowned. There should not be anyone else in these ducts. The maintenance tunnels were off limits to everyone except repair crews. But that sound was definitely coming from somewhere nearby. He put his tools down and listened more carefully. The sound came again, a little louder this time. It was coming from somewhere ahead of him, deeper in the duct system. Sam thought about ignoring it. He had work to do. The thermal regulator was not going to fix itself. But he could not shake the feeling that someone needed help. And Sam Brooks was not the kind of man who walked away when someone needed help. He started crawling forward, following the sound. The duct twisted and turned, leading him deeper into the station's infrastructure. The air grew warmer as he moved away from the main corridors. Dust floated in the beam of his flashlight. After about 10 minutes of crawling, Sam found the source of the sound. 2 small creatures were huddled behind a broken ventilation fan. They were pressed against each other, shaking with fear. Their big golden eyes reflected the light from his flashlight like mirrors. Sam stopped and stared. He had never seen creatures like these before. They looked like some kind of reptile, covered in soft gray scales. They had small claws on their hands and feet. Their faces were almost cute in a strange way, with little snouts and round ears. But what struck Sam most was how scared they looked. They were terrified. Their whole bodies were trembling. One of them, the slightly smaller one, was making that whimpering sound he had heard earlier. Sam did not know what species they belonged to. He did not recognize the small markings on their foreheads. He had no idea that these were Kalthari cubs, children of the most feared predator species in the galaxy. To him, they were just 2 scared kids who had gotten lost in a dark place. "Hey there," Sam said softly. He kept his voice calm and gentle. "Hey, little ones. It is okay. You are safe now." The cubs pressed themselves further against the wall. The whimpering got louder. They were clearly terrified of him. Sam understood. He probably looked scary to them. A strange creature appearing out of the darkness with a bright light. He would be scared too. He turned off his flashlight and waited for his eyes to adjust to the dim emergency lighting in the duct. Then he sat down, making himself as small as possible. "I am not going to hurt you," he said quietly. "I know you are scared. I know you are lost. But I am here to help." The cubs watched him with their big golden eyes. They did not move, but the whimpering slowly got quieter. Sam reached into his pocket and pulled out a protein bar. It was his lunch, the only food he had brought with him into the ducts. He unwrapped it slowly, making sure the cubs could see what he was doing. "Are you hungry?" he asked. He broke off a small piece and held it out toward them. "Here, it is food. It tastes okay, I promise." The cubs looked at the food, then at each other, then back at Sam. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the larger cub, the one who had not been whimpering, took a careful step forward. Sam stayed very still. He kept his hand extended, the piece of protein bar sitting on his palm. The cub came closer. It sniffed the food with its little snout. Then, very quickly, it grabbed the piece and stuffed it into its mouth. Sam smiled. Good, right? Here, there is more. He broke off another piece and held it out. This time, the smaller cub came forward too. Within minutes, both cubs were eating from his hand. Their fear slowly fading. Sam watched them eat and felt something warm spread through his chest. He did not have children of his own. His marriage had ended before that could happen. But sometimes he wondered what it would have been like to be a father. You two must have wandered pretty far from home, Sam said, as the cubs finished the last of the protein bar. Your parents are probably worried sick about you. The cubs looked up at him. They did not understand his words, but they seemed to understand his tone. The smaller one made a soft chirping sound. The larger one tilted its head to the side. Well, we cannot stay here, Sam said. It is too dark and too warm. Let me take you somewhere safe, and we will find your family. How does that sound? He held out his hands, palms up. An invitation, not a demand. The cubs could come to him if they wanted, or they could stay where they were. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the smaller cub took a step forward, and then another. And then, to Sam's complete surprise, it climbed right into his arms. The cub was warm and soft. Its scales were smooth like leather. It pressed itself against Sam's chest and made that chirping sound again. But this time it sounded happy, not scared. The larger cub watched for a moment, then followed its sibling. Soon both cubs were curled up against Sam's chest. Their small claws gently gripping his work shirt, Sam sat there in the dim light of the maintenance duct, holding two lost alien children he had never seen before. He did not know their names. He did not know their species. He did not know that their father was, at that very moment, threatening to destroy the entire station to find them. All he knew was that they were lost and scared and alone, and he was going to help them. Okay, little ones, he said softly. Let us get you out of here. He began the long crawl back toward the main corridors, moving carefully so as not to disturb the cubs resting against his chest. They felt lighter than he expected, and warmer. He could feel their small hearts beating fast. He hummed quietly as he crawled. An old song his grandmother used to sing. The cubs seemed to like it. Their trembling slowly stopped. Their grip on his shirt relaxed. By the time Sam reached the main access panel, both cubs were fast asleep. The alarm rang through the ship like a scream. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Every Calthari warrior on board stopped what they were doing and listened. They knew that sound. It was the sound that meant something very bad had happened. Commander Vraxos stood in his private quarters when the alarm started. He was looking at a star map, planning the next trade route for his ship. But when that alarm hit his ears, the star map fell from his claws. His heart stopped for one terrible moment. That was not a battle alarm. That was not an engine failure alarm. That was the child alert. Someone had triggered the child alert. Vraxos ran. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. His massive body crashed through doorways. His claws scraped against metal floors. Other Calthari warriors jumped out of his way because they could see the look in his eyes. It was the look of a father who feared the worst. The Calthari were not like other species in the galaxy. They stood 8 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in thick black scales that could stop most weapons. Their teeth could bite through ship metal. Their claws could tear through armor. Every species in the known galaxy feared the Calthari, and for good reason. They were the top predators. They had conquered 17 star systems. No one challenged them. But even the most feared predators in the galaxy had one weakness. Their children. Vraxos burst into the nursery chamber. His second-in-command, a female warrior named Theska, was already there. She stood in the middle of the room with her scales raised in distress. Her eyes were wide with fear. Where are they? Vraxos demanded. His voice was low and dangerous. Theska could not meet his eyes. They are gone, Commander, Nira and Korvax. They are not here, Vraxos looked around the room. The nursery was empty. The sleeping pads where his twin cubs should have been resting were cold. The toys they played with were scattered on the floor, but the cubs themselves were nowhere to be seen. How? Vraxos asked. The word came out like a growl. How did this happen? There are guards at every door. There are cameras in every corner. How did two cubs leave this room without anyone seeing? Theska pulled up the security footage on a wall screen. The video showed the two cubs, Nira and Korvax, playing quietly in their room. They were small, only reaching up to an adult Kelthari's knee. Their scales were still soft and gray, not yet hardened into the black armor of adults. Their eyes were big and golden, full of curiosity. In the video, the cubs noticed something. A small maintenance hatch near the floor had been left slightly open. A repair crew had been working on the air systems earlier that day. Someone had forgotten to close the hatch properly. Nira, the female cub, approached the hatch first. She sniffed at it with her small nose. Then she looked back at her brother Korvax. The two cubs seemed to have a silent conversation. Then, one after the other, they squeezed through the hatch and disappeared into the darkness beyond. The video ended. Vraxos stood very still. His claws dug into his palms so hard that blood dripped onto the floor. His cubs, his only children, were somewhere in the maintenance tunnels. And the ship was currently docked at Harmony Station. Harmony Station was a nightmare of a place. It was a neutral trading post where hundreds of different species came to buy and sell goods. There were thousands of corridors, millions of rooms, and countless places where two small cubs could get lost. Or worse, get found by the wrong people. Lock down the station, Vraxos ordered. His voice was cold now, controlled. The fear was still there, but he pushed it down deep inside himself. He could not afford to panic. His cubs needed him to think clearly. Theska nodded and began issuing commands into her communication device. Within minutes, every exit from Harmony Station was sealed. Every ship was grounded. No one was leaving until the cubs were found. Vraxos walked to the main observation deck of his ship. The Crimson Fang, through the large windows, he could see Harmony Station stretching out before him. It was massive, a city floating in space. Lights blinked in thousands of windows. Ships of every size and shape were docked along its many arms. Somewhere in that maze of metal and glass, his children were wandering alone. He thought about Nira, his daughter. She was brave, perhaps too brave. She was always exploring, always pushing boundaries. She had her mother's spirit. Her mother, who had died giving birth to the twins. Vraxos had promised himself that day that he would protect his cubs with his life. He would never let anything harm them. And now they were gone. He thought about Korvax, his son. Korvax was quieter than his sister. He thought before he acted. He was careful and clever. But he was also loyal to Nira. Wherever she went, he followed. If Nira had decided to explore the maintenance tunnels, Korvax would have gone with her without question. The door behind Vraxos opened, his chief security. Officer, a scarred warrior named Draven, entered the room. Commander, the station administrator is demanding to speak with you. He says we have no authority to lock down the station. He says this is a violation of galactic trade law. Vraxos turned slowly. He looked at Draven with eyes that burned with cold fire. Tell the administrator this, Vraxos said quietly. My children are lost on his station. If they are not found within the hour, I will tear this station apart piece by piece. I will start with his office. I will end with the reactor core. And when I am done, there will be nothing left but dust and memory. Draven swallowed hard. Yes, Commander. Send out every warrior we have, Vraxos continued. Search every corridor. Check every room. Look in every shadow. And spread the word to every species on this station. If anyone has seen my cubs, they will tell us. If anyone has harmed my cubs, they will not live to see another sunrise. Draven saluted and left to carry out his orders. Vraxos turned back to the window. The station lights twinkled like cold stars. Somewhere out there, Nira and Korvax were alone and afraid. They were probably hungry. They were probably cold. They were probably calling out for their father. wondering why he was not coming to save them. "Hold on, little ones," Vraxos thought. "I am coming for you. I will find you. And anyone who stands in my way will learn what it means to face a Kalthari father protecting his cubs." The hunt had begun. The station was in chaos. Kalthari warriors marched through every corridor, their heavy footsteps shaking the floor. They carried weapons openly, their scales raised in warning. Every other species on the station pressed themselves against walls and hid in doorways as the predators passed. Merchants closed their shops. Travelers locked themselves in their quarters. The usual busy sounds of Harmony Station, the bargaining and laughing and arguing, had all gone silent. In their place was only fear. Word had spread quickly. The Kalthari commander's children were missing. Anyone who had information was ordered to come forward. Anyone who had harmed them would face justice. And everyone knew what Kalthari justice looked like. Sam Brooks knew none of this. He climbed out of the maintenance access panel and into a quiet back corridor. The two cubs were still sleeping against his chest. One of them, the smaller one, had its tiny claw wrapped around his finger. The other had its face buried in the fabric of his work shirt, making soft, snoring sounds. Sam looked down at them and smiled. They were pretty cute, really. Strange looking, but cute. He wondered what species they were. He had met many different aliens during his years on the station, but he had never seen anything quite like these two. He started walking toward the security office. That seemed like the best place to take lost children. The security officers would know what to do. They would have records of everyone on the station. They could find the cubs' parents. The corridor was empty, which Sam found strange. Usually these back passages had at least a few people walking through them. Maintenance workers, delivery crews, that sort of thing. But today there was no one. He heard footsteps behind him. Heavy footsteps. Many of them. Sam turned around and saw 4 Kalthari warriors coming toward him. They were huge, towering over him like mountains of black scales and muscle. Their eyes glowed faintly in the corridor lights. Their claws clicked against the floor with each step. Sam's heart jumped into his throat. He had seen Kalthari before, but always from a distance. Up close, they were terrifying. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run away, but he did not run. He could not. The cubs were still sleeping against his chest. If he ran, he might wake them. He might scare them. The warriors stopped a few feet away. Their leader, a female with a deep scar across her snout, looked at Sam with cold eyes. Then she looked at the cubs he was holding. Her whole body went rigid. Her scales rose up along her spine. Her eyes went wide. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then the female warrior spoke into a communication device on her wrist. Her voice was shaking. "Commander Vraxos, we have found them. The cubs are alive?" Sam heard a voice reply through the device, but he could not understand the words. The Kalthari language sounded like growls and clicks to his human ears. The female warrior looked at Sam again. Her eyes were still wide, but now there was something else in them. Confusion, disbelief. "Human," she said slowly. "Do not move. The commander is coming." Sam nodded. He was too scared to do anything else. The minutes that followed were the longest of Sam's life. He stood in that corridor holding 2 sleeping alien cubs, surrounded by 4 Kalthari warriors who could kill him with a single swipe of their claws. He tried to stay calm. He tried to keep his breathing steady. He did not want the cubs to wake up and be scared. He noticed something strange as he waited. The cubs were not reacting to the warriors at all. They were still sleeping peacefully, their small bodies completely relaxed. Their scales were smooth and flat against their skin. Sam did not know it, but this was important. Kalthari cubs had an instinct that told them when danger was near. Their scales would rise up. Their claws would extend. They would wake up and try to run or hide, but these cubs were not doing any of that. They were sleeping on a human's chest as if it was the safest place in the universe. More footsteps echoed through the corridor. Heavier this time. Louder. Commander Vraxos appeared at the end of the hallway. He was the biggest Teothari Sam had ever seen. He stood over 8 feet tall. His scales were pure black, darker than space itself. His eyes burned with an orange fire that seemed to look right through Sam's soul. Behind him came more warriors. A dozen of them. They fanned out across the corridor, blocking any escape. Raxos walked toward Sam with slow, deliberate steps. Each step made the floor vibrate. Each step brought him closer to the small human who was holding his children. Sam did not move. He could not move. His legs felt like they were made of stone. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might explode. Raxos stopped directly in front of Sam. He towered over the human like a giant. His breath came out in hot puffs that Sam could feel on his face. For a long, terrible moment, Raxos just stared. He looked at his cubs, sleeping peacefully against the human's chest. He looked at Nira's claw wrapped around the human's finger. He looked at Korvax's face buried in the human's shirt. Then he looked at Sam. "Human," Raxos said. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Explain." Sam swallowed hard. His throat was dry. His voice came out as a croak. "I found them in the ducts, sir. They were lost. They were scared. I was going to take them to security. I was going to find their parents." Raxos did not respond. His eyes moved back to his cubs. Sam looked down at them too. They were still sleeping, still peaceful, still making those soft snoring sounds. "I did not hurt them," Sam said quickly. "I would never hurt them. They were just so scared, and I could not leave them alone in the dark. I gave them some food, and they calmed down, and then they just They climbed onto me and fell asleep. I did not know what else to do. I'm sorry if I did something wrong. I just wanted to help." The words tumbled out of Sam in a rush. He knew he was talking too much. He knew he should probably just be quiet and let the commander decide what to do with him. But he could not stop himself. The fear was making him babble. Raxos raised one massive claw. Sam closed his eyes. This was it. This was how he was going to die. Torn apart by an angry alien father for touching his children, but the blow never came. Instead, Sam felt something light brush against his cheek. He opened his eyes and saw that Raxos had extended one claw and was gently touching Nira's scales. The cub made a happy chirping sound in her sleep and pressed closer to Sam's chest. Raxos pulled his claw back. His expression changed. The anger faded from his eyes. In its place was something else. Something Sam could not quite identify. Wonder. That was the word. Raxos was looking at Sam with wonder. "They chose you," Raxos said quietly. "My cubs, the children of the most feared predator in the galaxy. They chose a human to protect them." Sam did not know what to say. He just stood there, holding the sleeping cubs, while the most dangerous creature he had ever met looked at him like he was some kind of miracle. "Do you understand what this means, human?" Raxos asked. Sam shook his head. "No, sir." "I do not." Raxos let out a long breath. It sounded almost like a laugh. "Neither do I," he admitted. "Neither do I." The security office was crowded. Too crowded. Sam stood in the middle of the room, still holding the sleeping cubs, while Kalthari warriors filled every corner. Commander Raxos stood across from him, his arms crossed over his massive chest. Security Officer Linda Patterson sat behind her desk, looking like she might faint at any moment. "Let me understand this correctly," Linda said slowly. Her voice was shaking. "You found the cubs in the heating ducts. You gave them food? And then they just fell asleep on you?" Sam nodded. "Yes, ma'am. That is what happened." Linda looked at Raxos. The commander's face was unreadable. "Commander, I want to assure you that we take the safety of all visitors to this station very seriously. We will launch a full investigation into how your children were able to leave your ship without escort. Someone will be held responsible for this failure." Raxos did not seem to hear her. He was still staring at Sam and the cubs. "They do not wake," Raxos said quietly. It was not a question. It was an observation. "My cubs are light sleepers. The smallest sound will wake them. They are surrounded by strangers in an unknown place, and yet they sleep. Sam looked down at Nira and Korvax. They had not moved since he first picked them up in the ducts. Their breathing was slow and steady. Their small bodies were completely relaxed. I guess they were really tired, Sam said. They must have been wandering around for hours. That would wear anyone out. Vraxos shook his head slowly. You do not understand, human. Kelthari cubs do not sleep in the presence of danger. It is in our blood, in our instincts. From the moment they are born, our children can sense when something threatens them. Their scales rise. Their claws extend. They wake and they prepare to fight or run. He pointed one claw at Sam's chest. My cubs are sleeping on you like you are their parent, like you are the safest creature in the universe. This should not be possible. This has never happened before. The room went silent. Everyone was staring at Sam now. The Kelthari warriors looked confused. Linda looked terrified. Sam just felt uncomfortable. I do not know what to tell you, Sam said honestly. I just found them and tried to help. I did not do anything special. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Actually, that is exactly what makes it special. Everyone turned to look. A Kelthari female stood at the entrance. She was older than the warriors, her scales showing hints of gray. She wore no weapons, only a simple robe with symbols that Sam did not recognize. Vraxos bowed his head slightly. Elder Kethra, I did not expect you. The elder walked into the room slowly. Her eyes were fixed on Sam and the cubs. I saw the security footage, Commander. I came as quickly as I could. This is something that needs to be witnessed. She stopped a few feet from Sam and studied him carefully. Her gaze was intense but not hostile. She seemed curious, like a scientist examining something under a microscope. Human, she said. What do you know of our species? Sam thought about it. Not much, ma'am. I know you are very strong. I know other species are afraid of you. That is about it. Elder Kethra nodded. Most species see only our teeth and claws. They see predators. They see danger. They run away before they can see anything else. She paused. But you did not run away. When you found two strange creatures in the darkness, you did not run. You did not attack. You offered food. You offered comfort. Why? Sam felt his face grow warm. He was not used to being the center of attention like this. They were kids, he said simply. Scared kids lost in the dark. It did not matter what species they were. I could not just leave them there. Elder Kethra turned to look at Vraxos. Do you hear him, Commander? He says it did not matter. To him, species is not important. Only kindness. She turned back to Sam. For centuries, we have been isolated. We are predators, so we assumed we could only have relationships with other predators. We trade with the strong. We ignore the weak. We trust no one but ourselves. She pointed at the sleeping cubs. And yet, here are the children of our fleet commander, sleeping peacefully on a human's chest. A species we have barely noticed. A species we considered ... insignificant. Sam was not sure if he should feel insulted by that. Our cubs can sense things that adults cannot, Elder Kethra continued. They feel the true nature of creatures around them. They know, on an instinctual level, who is dangerous and who is safe. And these cubs, the children of our greatest warrior, have declared this human to be safe. She looked at Vraxos. Do you understand what this means, Commander? Vraxos was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly, carefully choosing his words. It means we may have been wrong. About humans. About other species. About many things. Elder Kethra nodded. Yes, it means exactly that. Sam listened to this exchange with growing confusion. He was just a mechanic. He fixed heating systems and air filters. He was not equipped to handle discussions about galactic politics and species relationships. Look, he said, I am glad your cubs are okay. Really, I am. But can someone please take them? My arms are getting tired and I still have not fixed that thermal regulator. The room went quiet again. Then, to everyone's shock, Vraxos made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your arms are tired, Vraxos repeated. You are holding the children of the most feared warrior in the Kelthari Empire. You are surrounded by armed soldiers who could kill you in an instant, and you are worried about your tired arms. Sam shrugged. They are heavy. And my supervisor is going to be angry if I do not finish my work. Vraxos looked at Elder Kethera. Elder Kethera looked back at Vraxos. Something passed between them. Some kind of silent communication that Sam could not understand. Finally, Vraxos stepped forward. He extended his arms toward Sam. I will take them now, he said. His voice was gentler than before. But carefully. I do not want to wake them. Sam nodded and carefully transferred the cubs to Vraxos's arms. Nira made a small protesting sound as she was moved, but she did not wake up. Korvax did not react at all. Vraxos held his children against his chest. He looked down at them with an expression that Sam recognized. He had seen that expression on human parents' faces many times. Love, pure, overwhelming love. Human, Vraxos said without looking up. What is your name? Sam Brooks, sir. Sam Brooks. Vraxos tested the name on his tongue. You have done something today that has never been done before. You have earned the trust of Kelthari cubs. In our culture, that is one of the highest honors that can be given. Sam shifted uncomfortably. I was just trying to help. Yes, Vraxos said. You were. And that is why this matters. He finally looked up and met Sam's eyes. You will not be forgotten, Sam Brooks. The Kelthari remember their debts, and we always pay them. Sam was not sure what to say to that, so he just nodded as Vraxos turned to leave. Nira opened her eyes. She looked up at her father, then turned her head and looked at Sam. Her golden eyes met his brown ones. She made a soft, chirping sound. A happy sound, then she closed her eyes and went back to sleep. Sam watched them go. He stood in the security office, surrounded by stunned warriors and a very confused security officer, and wondered what exactly had just happened. He had found 2 lost kids and tried to help them. That was all. It should not have been a big deal, but somehow he had a feeling that his life was never going to be quite the same. 3 months had passed since the incident on Harmony Station. Life had mostly returned to normal. The Kelthari fleet had departed. The merchants had reopened their shops. The travelers had stopped hiding in their quarters. Sam Brooks had gone back to fixing heating systems and air filters, but things were not quite the same. Word had spread through the station about what had happened. People looked at Sam differently now. They pointed at him when he walked by. They whispered about the human who had held the predator's cubs. Some people thought he was crazy. Others thought he was brave. A few thought he was just lucky to be alive. Sam ignored all of them. He did not feel like a hero. He had just done what anyone should do when they found lost children. The fact that those children happened to be aliens did not change anything. At least. That is what he told himself. On a quiet evening in the 3rd month, Sam was sitting in the station's recreation area. He was eating dinner alone as he usually did. A bowl of something called space noodles sat in front of him. They did not taste like real noodles, but they were cheap and filling. He was halfway through his meal when a shadow fell across his table. Sam looked up and nearly choked on his noodles. Commander Vraxos stood over him. The massive Kelthari was not wearing armor this time, just simple clothing that might have passed for civilian wear. His scale seemed less aggressive somehow, less raised and sharp. Sam Brooks, Vraxos said. May I sit? Sam nodded, too shocked to speak. Vraxos sat down across from him. The chair groaned under his weight. He was so large that he made the table look like children's furniture. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Sam tried to remember how to breathe. I came to thank you, Vraxos finally said. Properly. I did not have the chance before. There was too much happening. Sam swallowed his noodles. You do not have to thank me, Commander, really. I just did what was right. Vraxos shook his head slowly. You do not understand. Let me explain something about my people, Sam Brooks. He leaned forward, resting his massive arms on the table. The Kelthari are predators. We have been predators for 100,000 years. We hunt, we fight. We conquer. It is in our nature. We cannot change it any more than you can change the color of your eyes. Sam nodded, not sure where this was going. Because we are predators, we assume everyone else is also predators. Or prey. There are only two types of creatures in the universe, we believed. Those who hunt and those who are hunted. We never considered that there might be a third type. A third type? Sam asked. Raxos looked at him with those burning orange eyes. Protectors. Creatures who do not hunt or run. Creatures who simply help. Who comfort. Who care for others without expecting anything in return. He paused to let that sink in. My cubs sense something in you that we have never seen before. A kind of strength that has nothing to do with claws or teeth. A kind of power that comes from compassion rather than violence. They felt safe with you because you are safe. Not weak, safe. There is a difference. Sam did not know what to say. He looked down at his noodles. Your species confuses us, Raxos continued. Humans are not the strongest creatures in the galaxy. You are not the fastest or the smartest or the most advanced. By all logical measures, you should be prey. You should run from predators like us. He reached across the table and placed one massive claw on Sam's shoulder. The touch was surprisingly gentle. But you do not run. You reach out. You offer comfort. You find scared children in the darkness and you hold them until they feel safe. This is not the behavior of prey. This is not the behavior of predators. This is something new. Sam finally found his voice. We are just people, Commander. We are not special. We have good folks and bad folks just like everyone else. Perhaps so said. But your good folks are different from our good folks. When a Kalthari wants to help someone, we stand guard. We fight their enemies. We show strength. He paused. When you wanted to help my cubs, you held them. You sang to them. You made them feel loved. He removed his claw from Sam's shoulder and stood up. I am returning to my homeworld soon. My cubs are there with their caretakers. They ask about you often. Nira especially. She remembers the human who held her when she was scared. Sam smiled at that. I hope they are doing well. They are. But they would like to see you again someday. Raxos reached into his clothing and pulled out a small metal disc. He placed it on the table in front of Sam. This is a token of friendship. It marks you as an ally of the Kalthari Empire. If you ever need help, show this to any Kalthari warrior. They will assist you without question. Sam picked up the disc. It was surprisingly light, made of some metal he did not recognize. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. Thank you, Sam said. But I really did not do anything that deserves this. Raxos looked at him for a long moment. Then he did something that Sam had never seen a Kalthari do. He smiled. It was not a scary smile, full of teeth and threat. It was a genuine smile, warm and grateful. That, Sam Brooks, is exactly why you deserve it. He turned and walked away. His massive form disappearing into the crowd, Sam sat alone at his table, holding the metal disc in his hand. He thought about everything that had happened. He thought about those two scared cubs in the darkness. He thought about the look in Vraxos's eyes when he held his children for the first time. He thought about what Vraxos had said. About protectors. About a third type of creature that the predators had never considered. Maybe that was what humans were. Not the strongest or the fastest. Not predators or prey. Just people who saw someone in trouble and tried to help. It was not much, Sam thought. It was not as impressive as sharp claws or powerful weapons or advanced technology, but maybe, just maybe, it was enough. He finished his noodles and went back to work. There was a thermal regulator that still needed fixing. The universe was not going to wait just because he had made friends with some aliens, but as he crawled into the heating ducts, Sam found himself humming that old song his grandmother used to sing, the one he had hummed to the cubs, when they were scared, somewhere out there. Across the vast darkness of space, two little Kalthari were growing up. They would become warriors someday, like their father. They would learn to fight and hunt and conquer, but they would also remember. They would remember the human who had held them when they were lost. The human who had been kind when he did not have to be. The human who had shown them that strength was not always about claws and teeth, and maybe, when they grew up, they would be a little different than the generations before them. A little softer, a little kinder, because a mechanic from Ohio had found them in the darkness and decided to help. That was the power of humans. Not weapons. Not technology. Not strength. Just kindness. And sometimes, in a galaxy full of predators and prey, kindness was the most powerful thing of all.